Good evening, class. So, today we will tackle about the blood. Okay? So, ang blood. So, this is module 14. Okay? So, di ba importante kitang blood sa aton nga lawas? It's because kung wala ta blood, paano ta mabuhi? Di ba? So, patay kita kung wala ta dugo. Okay, kay damo na siya functions. So, ang functions ng blood naton is transporting oxygen and nutrients, removing waste products, fighting infection, regulating blood temperature, forming blood clots, transporting hormones. Okay, so ang iban isarada sa module nyo. Okay, so ang blood is a type of connective tissue, consists of liquid matrix na ginatawag nga plasma. Okay, ang liquid matrix na. Then, containing cells and cell fragments. So, ang cell and cell fragments are formed elements ang tawag. Okay, so ang aton nga blood makes about 8% of total body weight. Okay, 8%. Then, ang total blood volume is 4 to 5 liters sa female. Then, 5 to 6 liters sa male. Okay? So, next we have the plasma. Okay, so kung ini siya, makita nyo ni nga tube. Kung, example sa laboratory, kung kuhaan kita sang specimen, kung kuhaan kita blood, di ba daw ginaano siya sa centrifuge nga machine, ang mga medtech sinakabalos ng centrifuge. So, ang centrifugation, ang tawag sina. Okay? Daw ginabutang sa centrifuge machine para mag-separate ang plasma kag ang RBC. Okay? So, separate na siya. Centrifugation, ang word, ang process, ang process sa mga medtech or sa laboratory para mag-separate ang plasma kag ang erythromycin. So, kung makita nyo, for example, kung mag-duty na kamo sa blood bag nga na, kung magtahaw siya, bala pabayaan mo lang siya, malugdang ang red, masaka na ang daw yellowish na bala nga daw liquid sa babaw sang pula nga dugo. So, ga-separate na siya. So, ang plasma naton is a pale yellow liquid that surrounds cells, contains dissolved proteins. So, proteins na siya. So, ano yun nga proteins? So, amo na siya ang albumin, globulin, and fibrinogen. Okay, so ang albumin keeps the fluid from leaking out of your bloodstream. Amo na yung purpose. So, mga proteins ni sila. Next is ang globulin plays important role in liver function. And fibrinogen, a clotting factor. So, ang fibrinogen, so, ang activation converts it to fibrin. So, ang fibrin, halin na siya sa fibrinogen. Okay? So, help na siya to form blood clots in the body. Okay? So, ang fibrin, thread-like protein that forms blood clots. Okay? Ang fibrin. Ang fibrin from fibrinogen. Okay? So, ang plasma is 55% of total blood. Then, ang sa middle ni balao, sa middle sina is ang white blood cells and platelets. And sa dalom, ang red is ang erythrocyte or ang red blood cells. So, 45% of total blood. Ina siya. Okay? Kung naano na siya, na-separate na. Okay? So, mas damo ang plasma kaysa sa red blood cells. Okay? So, these are the plasma components and their functions. So, we have the water. So, water acts as a solvent and suspending medium for blood components. Proteins maintain osmotic pressure or ang albumin destroy foreign substances or amo na siyang antibodies and complement. Transport molecules, albumin and globulins, and form clots, ang fibrinogen. Okay, so ions involved in osmotic pressure, sodium and chloride ions, membrane potential, sodium and potassium ions, and acid-base balance. Ang mga acid-base balance nga na isang hydrogen, hydroxide, bicarbonate ions. And we have the nutrients. So, plasma components ni siya components sang plasma. So, nutrients, source of energy and building blocks of more complex molecules like ang glucose, amino acids, and triglycerides. Gases, involved in aerobic respiration, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. Waste products, breakdown products of protein metabolism like ang urea and ammonia salts. And red blood cells, muna siya ang bilirubin. Regulatory substances catalyze chemical reactions sang enzymes. Diba? Ginakatalyze ang enzyme is catalyst and stimulate or inhibit many body functions o mga hormones. So, ini sila tanan ang ginhamba ko sa plasma components sang aton nga plasma. Okay? So, formed elements naman kita. So, ang formed elements is ini sa dalom. Okay? Ang ini sa dalom na ang mga formed elements. So, red blood cells. So, red blood cells, amo ni ang tsura sang red blood cells. So, biconcave disc, no nucleus. Tandaan na, ang red blood cells, no nucleus. Okay, ha? Tandaan, no nucleus ang red blood cells. Ang white blood cells may ara. So, ang red blood cells contains hemoglobin, which colors the cell red. So, muna nga ang cell is red. Okay, tungod sa hemoglobin. So, 6.5 to 8.5 in diameter. Okay? So, functions niya is transport, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. Okay? So, white blood cells. So, ang white blood cells, duwa na siya kaklase. Ang granulocytes and agranulocytes. Okay? Ang granulocytes and agranulocytes. So, sa granulocytes, muna sila ang neutrophil, basophil, eosinophil, and sa agranulocytes, lymphocytes, monocytes. Okay? Okay. So, sa neutrophils, ang sa white blood cells, spherical cells with a nucleus na siya. May nucleus ang white blood cells. As you can see here, di ba muni siya ang cell? So, di ba may sang sulod? May nucleus sa sulod sang cell naton. Okay? So, ang white blood cells, kung may sila na ang mga fighting cells, kung may infection naton lawa. So, kung notice nyo, kung gamasakit ka mo is gataas ang white blood cells sa aton mga laboratory results. Okay? So, ang start kita sa neutrophil, under sa granulocytes. So, description, nucleus with 2 to 4 lobes connected by thin filaments. And cytoplasmic granules stain, a light pink or reddish purple, 10 to 12 in diameter. Okay? So, function sa neutrophil, phagocytosis, microorganisms, and other substances. So, ginakaon niya ang bacteria. Basophil. So, ari naman, ang description. So, ang basophil, function, release histamine, which promotes inflammation, and heparin, which prevents clot formation. So, tandaan na heparin is ginagamit na siya kung sa hospital para hindi mag-clot ang blood naton. Okay? So, ang eosinophil. Ang eosinophil is participates in inflammatory response of allergic reactions and asthma. So, attack certain worm parasites. Okay? So, ang eosinophils, usually sa mga allergies na siya. Then, agranulocytes, ang under sina is lymphocyte and monocyte. So, duwa lang. So, ang lymphocyte, round nucleus plasma forms a thin ring around the nucleus 6 to 14 in diameter. So, function sa lymphocytes is fight na siya sang virus or mga fungi. Okay? So, produces antibodies and other chemicals responsible for destroying microorganisms, contributes to allergic reaction, graft rejection, tumor control, and regulation of immune system. Okay. So, when you say graft rejection, so, ang graft na bala ko example, like mga burn patient, amo na siya. Diba kung ginagraft na siya, skin graft na ginatawag, so gataas ang ga-produce na siya sang antibodies or sang mga reaction if ever nga may ara kita rejection or hindi compatible ang donor, ang skin donor sa aton patient. Okay, so monocyte, so phagocytic cell in the blood leaves the blood and becomes a macrophage, which phagocytizes bacteria, dead cells, cell fragments, and other debris within tissues. Okay? debris, gali, sorry. Other debris within tissue. Okay, so platelet. So, platelet naton forms platelet plugs, release chemicals necessary for blood clotting. So, notice nyo, ang platelet, importante, gid na siya. If nubo ang platelet, prone kita sa bleeding. Okay? So, hematopoiesis. So, ang hematopoiesis, blood cell production, ina siya. Okay? So, in infant, occurs in liver, thymus gland, spleen, lymph nodes, and red bone marrow. Continues throughout the life. So, hemocytoblast or stem cell, a single population of cells where all the formed elements are derived. So, growth factor determines the types of formed elements derived from stem cells and how many are produced. Okay, so we have the RBC, red blood cells or erythrocyte. Pareho lang nga sila. Okay? So, ang red blood cells or ang erythrocyte is functional components of blood responsible for transporting gases and nutrients. Okay. So, diin halin ang RBC or ang erythrocyte sa bone marrow. Sa bone marrow ha, ang RBC naton. So, all blood cells are made of. So, diriga kadto kundi all the blood cells are made of in the bone marrow. Okay, so bone marrow is also the site of hematopoiesis. Okay, this is hemato. Sorry, this is hematopoiesis, not hemoto. It's hematopoiesis. Okay. So, meaning sang hemato is blood and poiesis is formed or to make. Okay, so this is the site of hematopoiesis or diin ga ubrasang aton nga mga blood cells. Okay, so included na dirang mga white blood cells, red blood cells, okay? So, next. So, monitsura sang aton nga red blood cell. So, di ba bako gina, it's biconcave. So, mga circle na sila. So, di ba kung sa mga sickle cell anemia, di ba ang sa red blood cells, daw ang shape sang sickle cell anemia, nga ang tsura sang red blood cells, di ba got deformed? Doga mo na sila, Do moon ang So, munigid siya ang normal nga tsura sang red blood cells or muna ang tsura sang mature red blood cells. Okay, so ang mature red blood cells are flexible and biconcave disc. So they don't have a nucleus. So ang lifespan sina sa females is 110 days lang. Then ang sa males is 120 days lang na siya. Okay? So ang red blood cells contains hemoglobin. Okay, so ang hemoglobin ga-carry na siya sang 4 oxygen molecules. Ang hemoglobin consists of hemi and globin. Hemi and globin. So ang hemi ga-consist na siya sang iron and protoporphyrin. So di ba kung notice nyo, kung nubo ang iron naton sa aton body, kung magnubo ang iron, manubo man ang red blood cells because ang red blood cells ga-contains ang iron. So, kung magnubo ang iron, kag magnubo ang red blood cells, possible, ang deficiency is iron deficiency and will cause anemia. Okay? Anemia. Kung nubo ang iron or nubo ang red blood cells sa aton body. Okay, so sa hemoglobin, ang color sa hemoglobin naton is bright red if with oxygen and darker red if without oxygen. Kung wala oxygen, darker red. Kung may oxygen, kung oxygenated blood, bright red. Okay? So next we have the proerythroblast stem cells which give rise to RBC line. Production is stimulated by low blood oxygen levels and depends on presence of several vitamins. So, amo ni mga vitamins, B vitamins, folate, and B12 for synthesis of DNA, iron for production of hemoglobin. So, importante, gini sila. Okay, erythropoietin or ang EPO, produced by the kidney in response to low blood oxygen levels, stimulates the red bone marrow to produce more RBC. So, sa erythropoietin, importante, gini siya lalo na kung nubo ang dugo. So, gina-inject, may mga erythropoietin injections, gani, kita sa hospital. So, usually, ginahatag man na siya sa mga tao nga nubo, gidman ang red blood cells, or hindi ka produce ang kidney nila sang erythropoietin. Okay? So, ang nubo ila nga erythropoietin sa ila body, so, possible, ang mga muni is guba ila kidney. So, in short, ang mga common nga gina-injectionan sang erythropoietin injection is ang mga dialysis patient. So, sa dialysis, di ba, hindi naka-function ila kidney. Tapos, gina-dialysis pa sila 3 times a week. So, mas ganubo pag ila nga red blood cells or dugo, kay tungod ginasalin ang dugo balaga transfer na, di ba do isala mo sa machine, then ibalik na naman sa patient naton. So ang kidney nila hindi pagid ka produce ang tsakto nga erythropoietin, so that's why ang mga mayara gahatag kita sang erythropoietin injection sa mga muna nga patient. Okay, to produce more RBC para hindi magnubo ila red blood cells. Okay? So, next is bilirubin. So, a yellow pigment molecule molecule from conversion of hemi molecules in hemoglobin breakdown. So, normally removed from blood by liver and released into small intestines as bile. So, ang bilirubin, so, diri naton sa bilirubin, diri na siya sometimes sa balaan ng may mga liver problems. Kay kung taas ang high bilirubin ang aton nga blood, usually ga-cause na siya sang jaundice o ang pag-yellowish. 'Di ba? Ang mga may liver problem, ga-yellowish or ginatawag nga jaundice in color, yellow ila nga mata. Ang ila nga eyes bala, yellow ila skin, yellow man. Okay? So meaning taas ila bilirubin count nila. Okay? So, white blood cells or ang ginatawag nga leukocyte or WBC. Okay, so white blood cells makes up the buffy coat together with plasma, can leave the blood and travel by amoeboid movement through tissues, and has 2 main functions. So, they help fight infections, they contain a nucleus. Tapos, ang 2 main functions nila is to protect the body against invading microorganisms and pathogens, and to remove dead cells and debris from tissues by phagocytosis. Okay? So, muna ginahamba ko, diba, white blood cells or leukocyte, kung may infection aton body, diba sila ang fighting cells. Sila, kung may pilas kita or na-infect kita, sila ang first line of defense. So, gakadto da mga white blood cells. So, once magpunpon, example, ang white blood cells sa pilas mo, so, di ba kung may infection, ginakaon na sang white blood cells, sa mga neutrophils, and gakadto sila da, then ga-form, inasang daw na di ba? Or ang ginatawag nga pus. Okay, so, di ba ang pus is collection of dead WBC that accumulate when body's immune system activates in response to an infection. Okay, so muna siya ang pus or ang ginatawag nga na. Okay, so mga patay ina sila nga WBC. So hamba ko gina kung may infection kita sa body ta, makita sa aton nga laboratory or sa aton nga blood chemistry, magpa-laboratory kita nga taas gid, elevated, hindi siya beyond normal ang white blood cells naton. Okay? Kung nubo naman naton nga white blood cells, for example, iba ba ko ginakon taas, gina-fight niya ang infection. Pero what if nubo aton white blood cells or kulang? So meaning prone kita sa infection. Kay tungod wala may ma-fight again sa mga microorganisms or mga viruses and bacteria kay nubo aton nga white blood cells. So dapat normal. So, dapat ara gidya ang white blood cells. So, may ara, man na siya condition kung sa diin, low blood cell count ang isa ka patient. So, ginatawag na siya nga leukopenia. Okay? Muna siya ang sakit or ang disease. So, sa white blood cells, ang bako may granulocytes, agranulocytes. Sa granulocytes, neutrophil, basophil, eosinophil. Sa agranulocytes is leukocyte and monocyte. So, namba ko naman ginang mga functions nila sini. So, next we have the platelet. So, importante ang platelet. So, because example, kung madengue, di ba sila man ang ga-form sang clot para hindi kita sila ni ang kinanglan. For example, dapat hindi magnubo aton platelet. Kaya kung magnubo aton platelet, prone kita sa bleeding. Okay? So, importante ang platelet naton. So, ang platelet or ang ginatawag nga thrombocyte. Okay? So, platelet or thrombocyte produced in red marrow also. So, from large cells, the megakaryocytes. Okay? The megakaryocytes. Okay? From the large cells. So, ang large cell nga na is ang megakaryocytes. Okay? So, 3 processes in preventing blood loss. So, we have the vascular spasm or temporary constriction of blood vessels. Tungod, stimulated by the chemicals released by the cells of damaged blood cells wall and by platelets. So, example, sina nga chemicals is ang thrombosanes and endothelin. So, number 2 is platelet plug formation, seals up small break in blood vessels. So, under some platelet plug formation is ang platelet adhesion, von Willebrand factor, platelet release reaction, fibrinogen receptor, platelet aggregation. So, ari naman ang mga meanings. Okay? So, number 3 is blood clotting or coagulation. Coagulation meaning para mag-clot. Okay? Formation of clot muna siya. So, ang mga clotting factors, formation of clot that depends on a number of proteins found within plasma called clotting factors. So, sila is ang clot, a network of thread-like fibrin that traps blood cells, platelets, and fluid. So, mga clotting factors, vitamin K, required in the synthesis of most clotting factors in liver, can get from diet and from bacteria within the large intestines in humans. So, control is necessary in clotting to prevent unwanted clots. So, ang thrombus, unattached clot, and embolus, a clot on loose and floating through circulation. So, muna sila, ang embolus, makita na siya, ga-float lang na siya sa aton nga blood. Ang embolus. So, delikado man na sometimes ang mga embolus, kaya pwede na siya mag-cause ng stroke kung magsaka siya sa brain ang embolus. So, anticoagulants. So, ang mga anticoagulants para hindi mag-clot aton dugo. So, prevent clotting factors from forming clots under normal condition. So, ang mga anticoagulants, example sina is ang heparin. So, clot retraction process where formed clots begin to condense into more compact structure. Serum is squeezed out of clot, work to stop the blood flow, reduce probability of infection, and helps enhance healing. Fibrinolysis, process of dissolving clot. Okay? Transfusion, meaning matransfuse na kita sang aton nga blood sa tao from one person to other person. Ang donor kag ang recipient. So, ang donor, person who gives the blood. Diba? May mga sa Red Cross, ga-donate kita blood, muna silang donor. Then, ang recipient, kung sino pwede magaan or may kilanglan sa aton blood. So, pero make sure nga it's compatible sa aton patient. Hindi pwede nga ano-ano lang nga blood. So, idepende gidya. So, infusion, the introduction of fluid other than blood such as saline and glucose into the blood. So, transfusion reaction, characterized by clumping or ruptured blood cells and clotting within blood vessels caused by interaction between two molecules. So, ang two molecules, ang antigens found in surface of red blood cells and antibodies, proteins in plasma, very specific and can only bind to certain antigen. Agglutination, clumping of cells when antibodies bind to antigens, forming molecular bridges. And hemolysis, a reaction that causes rupture in red blood cells in incompatible Ag to Ab binding. Okay, so hindi compatible ang antigen kag ang antibody, so nagkaka-hemolysis. Okay, so blood groupings. So number 1 is ABO group. ABO blood group, a system used to categorize human blood. So two types of antigen appear, type A and B antigens, which are genetically determined, and anti-A and anti-B antibodies are not found in plasma until 2 months after birth. Meaning, kung newborn, wala sang anti-A and anti-B antibody. So mag 2 months pa na siya after birth makita ang anti-A and anti-B antibodies. Okay, as you can see here, red blood cells and plasma. So, sa ito nyo first, okay, so first is ang type A naton. So, this is the type A. So, red blood cells with type A surface antigens and plasma with anti-B antibodies. Okay? So, this is type B. So, this is A and this is B. Red blood cells with both type A and type B surface antigens. Okay. And neither anti-A nor anti-B plasma antibodies. So, this is type O. So, red blood cells with neither... This is AB. This is AB. Okay, type AB. So, type AB, red blood cells with both type A and B surface antigens and neither anti-A nor anti-B antibodies plasma. Okay? So, AB, type AB niya siya. So, type O. Red blood cells with neither type A nor type B surface antigens but both anti-A and anti-B plasma antibodies. Next, we have the Rh blood group. So, divided to Rh positive, have Rh antigens on surface of red blood cells and Rh negative, no Rh antigens. Okay? Ang Rh positive have Rh antigens on surface of red blood cells and Rh negative, no Rh antigens. So, expressed together with ABO blood group, example, blood type A and Rh positive is termed to be A positive. And AB negative is the rarest combination blood type. AB negative. So, di ba sometimes alang kita makakita isang negative nga blood type, AB negative. So, rare na siya ang combination. So, antibodies only develop if an Rh negative person is exposed to Rh positive RBC by transfusion or across placenta to mother from fetus. So, first-time interaction makes the Rh negative person synthesize to Rh antigens and produce anti-Rh antibodies. After that, any repeat in exposing Rh negative person to Rh positive blood may cause transfusion reaction. Hemolytic disease of the newborn or ang HDN or ang yatawag nga erythroblastosis fetalis. So, disorder of Rh incompatibility that occurs when the mother is Rh negative and the fetus is Rh positive. So, no problem in the first pregnancy but can be fatal to fetus in later pregnancies. Then, ang RHOD, immune globulin or ang ROGAM nga ginatawag. So, antibodies against Rh antigens that is used as prevention of the HDN or ang hemolytic disease of the newborn. Injection can be given during the pregnancy, before delivery, or immediately after each delivery, miscarriage, or abortion. Miscarriage or nahulugan. Okay? Abortion, gin-abort na siya. Compare ang miscarriage, nahulugan lang siya nga hindi niya hungod. Okay? So, diagnostic blood test, type and blood typing and cross-matching na siya. So, done to identify the blood group of blood recipient and donor. So, need tagid na before kita mag-transfuse sang blood sa aton patient sa hospital. So, dapat ang result may ara kita result sang blood typing and cross-match. So, ang blood typing, so data makita kung determines the ABO and Rh blood groups or blood sample. So, presence of agglutination identifies the antigens RBC. And cross-match test for the agglutination reaction between donor or recipient. Donor's blood is considered safe for transfusion only if no agglutination occurs in either match. So, sometimes ang blood typing, so makita tada kung ano nga blood type ni siya. Kung muna gani, kung ABO or Rh blood group. So, mabalaan kung type O, type A, B, AB, muna sa blood typing. So, need nyo gid na. So, hindi ka mo mag-transfuse sang blood during mag-duty ka mo sa hospital kung wala ini ang duwa. So, gina-check gid na sang partner. So, by partner, ina usually mag-check sang blood typing. Kag ang cross-match, kung nakabuta nga, okay na ni. Compatible ang donor sa recipient naton sang blood. So, kung hindi siya sang nakabutang man actually sa aton result, kung incompatible. So, meaning kung hindi compatible, hindi pag-ihatag. Okay? Kaya base magka-blood reaction. Anaphylactic or anaphylactic shock ang patient naton. Okay? So, maglala pa. Mag-allergy ang patient naton. So, pwede gid na matabo. So, tandaan ha, importante, may blood typing kag cross-match before mag-transfuse sang dugo. Okay. So, number 2, complete blood count. So, complete blood count or ang ginatawag nga CBC, di ba magpa-CBC, kita mabalaan naton kung anong result, kung taas or nubo aton red blood cells, white blood cells, mga under sa white blood cells. So, tanan makita ta sa CBC nga test, sa diagnostic test naton. So, analysis of blood that consists of red blood count, hemoglobin, hematocrit, white blood count. Okay? So, ari naman ang normal values nila tanan. So, different sa male, different man sa female. Okay? Except for the white blood count. Okay? Same lang. So, depende man sa mga diagnostic center sometimes. So, ara, manda ang normal values naton sa aton mga result. Okay, so sa red blood cells, number of RBC in every microliter of blood. So, hemoglobin expressed as grams of hemoglobin per 100 ml of blood. Hematocrit, percentage of RBC in total blood volume. And white blood count measures total number of WBC in blood. So, differential blood count determines the percentage of 5 kinds of WBC. So, di ba, mga neutrophils, lymphocytes, monocytes, eosinophils, and basophils. So, man-notice nyo din ang pinakataas, neutrophils, because amo na sila ang most abundant. Okay? So, number 4, clotting. Has 2 common ways to measure the ability to clot. So, before sometimes mag-surgery, gina-test danay kung okay ang clotting factors ang aton nga patient. Okay, if no bo, syempre, hindi kita ka-proceed agad-agad sa surgery. Kaya basi, mag-bleed, magkaka-excessive bleeding kita. So, need ta na, so damo kita need i-test. So, kung nubo ang clotting factors ang aton nga patient is sometimes ga-transfuse kita sang dugo or platelet. Okay, so may naka-ready na nga platelet and dugo na red blood cells. So, may kita platelet count. Normal is 2,500,000 to 400,000 platelets of blood, and proton beam time measurement calculates how it takes for the blood to start clotting. So, meaning, ang proton beam time o ang PTT PTT na siya sa laboratory or sa hospital para mabalaan kung kung dasig bala siya mag-clot or need ta ni siya gaan heparin kay basi gulpi mag-clot ini siya nga patient amo na. So depende gid. So which is normally 9 to 12 seconds. Officially reported as International Normalized Ratio or INR. So which standardize the time it takes to clot. Okay? So normal lang na 9 to 12 seconds. So blood chemistry, the composition of materials dissolved or suspended in plasma. So mga composition of materials dissolved is ang glucose, urea, nitrogen, bilirubin, and cholesterol can be used to assess the functioning and status of the body system. So manabalan ta ang blood chemistry, glucose kung taas aton sugar, urea, aton nga kidneys kung kamusta, urea, nitrogen, bilirubin, aton liver, cholesterol, aton nga sa heart, aton kay basic or high blood kita. Okay, so disease and disorders of blood, erythrocytosis, overabundance of RBC leading to increased blood viscosity, reduced flow rates, and if severe clogged capillaries. There are different types of this condition. So relative erythrocytosis, primary erythrocytosis, or polycythemia vera, secondary erythrocytosis, and anemia. So low hemoglobin na siya. Okay? So, aplastic anemia caused by inability of red marrow to produce RBC and often. So, WBC and platelets acquired as a result of damage to stem cells in red marrow. So, hindi ka produce mayad ang red marrow sa RBC. So, iron deficiency anemia meaning nubo aton nga iron. Okay, so or excessive iron loss. So, folate deficiency anemia caused by inadequate folate in diet. So, that's why ginapainom ang mga tao sang folic, mga folic acid, mana siya. Kaya ga-help pa na sa saton nga blood. So, pernicious anemia caused by inadequate vitamin B12. Okay, ha? B12, pernicious anemia. Hemorrhagic anemia results from a loss of blood due to trauma, ulcers, or excessive menstrual bleeding. Hemorrhagic, meaning hemodugoragic, trauma. Okay? So, hemolytic anemia occurs when RBC rupture or are destroyed at an excessive rate, can be caused by inherited defects in RBC. Thalassemia. So, ang thalassemia, hereditary ni siya, resulting in reduced rates of hemoglobin production. Reduced rates. So, nubo. So, sickle cell. Naman siya, di ba, ang sickle shape nga red blood cell. So, hereditary man siya disease where the RBC assume a rigid sickle shape and plug up small blood vessels more fragile than normal. So, gina-block bala na sang sickle cell. Di ba daw, dapat bilog. So, ga-block na. So, hindi ka flow mayad aton nga blood. So, sa aton bloodstream. So, leukopenia, haba ko lower the normal WBC. Okay, so leukocytosis, abnormally high WBC naman. So, often caused by bacterial infection. And leukemia, of course, ang cancer of the red marrow, characterized by abnormal production of one or more WBC types that do not function normally. And thrombocytopenia, platelet is greatly reduced, resulting in chronic bleeding through small vessels and capillaries. So, may mga thrombocytopenia prone gid sa bleeding. For the listed condition below, amo ni silang iban nga mga sakit naton, okay? Sa disseminated intravascular coagulation, bali na siya, rare na siya nga disease or a rare condition, pero serious condition na siya nga ga-cause abnormal blood clotting throughout the body's blood vessel. Okay? Okay, so sa von Willebrand disease naman is a lifelong bleeding disorder in which your blood doesn't clot properly. So, people with the disease have low levels of von Willebrand factor. So, a protein that helps blood clot, diba? Or the protein doesn't perform as it should. Okay? So, most people nga may muni nga disease or born with it na. So, inherited ni siya from one or both parents. So, however, warning signs such as heavy bleeding after a dental procedure may not show up for years. Okay, so von Willebrand disease can't be cured, but with treatment and self-care, most people with this disease can lead active lives. Okay, and hemophilia. So, mapass through ni siya sa halin ni siya sa mother nga carriers ang hemophilia sang muni nga disease. Then napapass on sa male nga bata. Okay? So common ini siya sa males gidya. Okay, so there is a hemophilia. So ang clotting factor niya sinisnubo. So gamay-gamay lang big nga pilas gadugo na dason. Ha, okay? So sa hemophilia happens because your body doesn't make enough protein. So wala kita sang clotting factors to help our blood to form clots. Okay, so may na sila risk for bleeding, gidmi sila ang hemophilia. So hindi pwede nga dumapilas lang sila kay dasig sila mag-bleed and dugay mag-clot. Okay? Septicemia or blood poisoning. So septicemia is an infection that occurs when bacteria enter the bloodstream and spread. So kung magsulod ng bacteria kaga spread sa aton bloodstream, muna siyang septicemia or ang septic na. Okay? So blood poisoning, septic na aton patient, do muna. Okay, so sa malaria naman, so malaria spreads when a mosquito becomes infected with the disease after biting an infected person. And the infected mosquito then bites a non-infective person. So, the malaria parasites enter the person's bloodstream and travel to the liver. Okay? So, when the parasites mature, they leave the liver and infect red blood cells. So, ang infectious mononucleosis naman is often called the kissing disease. So, the virus that causes mono or ang Epstein-Barr virus is spread through saliva. So, you can get it through kissing, but you can also be exposed by sharing a glass or food utensils with someone who has mono. However, mononucleosis isn't as contagious as some infections, okay, such as the common cold. Okay, so ari naman, so sometimes so very common nagid ni siya sa Philippines actually ang acquired immune deficiency syndrome or ang AIDS. Okay? So ano ni siya, the autoimmune nga disorder. Okay, so AIDS is the late stage of HIV infection. So kung hindi mag-ayo ang HIV infection sa imo, pwede ka na mahulog siya sa AIDS. So hindi na ni siya curable actually ang AIDS. So AIDS is the late stage of HIV infection that occurs when the body's immune system is badly damaged because of the virus. Okay? So mga sexual transmitted diseases ni siya. Okay, kaya diba ang HIV is human immune deficiency virus. So diba ang virus nga ga-attack sang cells that gina-attack niya ang cells that helps the body fight infection, making a person more vulnerable to other infections and diseases. Okay? So if left untreated ang HIV, it can lead to AIDS. So late stage ni siya sang HIV. Okay? So that's all for our lessons. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me a private message. Okay? Thank you.